do you actually get training to share the gospel with seekers? I did that by going down to the jail. They tried to keep me down in the jail, have my own cell. But I studied with people that they were just really glad to see anyone, and they were kind of a captive audience, and they're like hanging on my every word. All of a sudden I have brilliant things to say because they hadn't seen anyone in a long time. Well, guess what? We have people from all around the world that are signed up that are interested in hearing from you. So if you want to share the gospel, you might say, well, I don't know, I don't have family or friends that I know, or whatever. You probably do, and we'll talk about that. We'll think and pray about that. But there are people already signed up. Really, it's just a matter of taking an hour a week to do this, and you can be a part of this. And we've continued to develop our series in more than 50 different languages. We've got a new Portuguese voiceover that has been developed and is out this year. And so we're looking forward to using that. Also a Ukrainian voiceover as well. So we're working with Ukrainian refugees in different parts of Europe as well as in the U.S. So Joel, who y'all have met, part of our team, our Eastern European rep, actually, there's a church in Houston, Memorial Church. It's a very large, well-established congregation. They have a group of about 50 Ukrainian refugees, most of whom are Russian-speaking there. But anyway, they started using our series, and they were looking for Russian language materials, and they didn't have anything, and then someone connected us with them. And so a great refugee ministry is developed there in Houston. They're looking to do something similar to that also in Austin area, and there are probably other places, major places in the U.S. So again, developing the series in the different languages really creates all kinds of open doors. One of the new outreaches that we have you hear about is in Vietnam this year, and for those of you who grew up, during the time of the Vietnam War, it's just amazing to think that the gospel is actually being very well received in the country of Vietnam, and you're going to hear directly from one of the Vietnamese missionaries this morning. So this is kind of hard to see, so I'll kind of skip that, but and this isn't quite on there, but I wanted to run through in a moment and share with you some of the different people that are involved in that. But let's go ahead, if we can, Gary, and let's pull up that testimonial video, the first one there. And this is something that when I was out in Utah on a trip out west, filmed a short update for you, and hopefully this will give you a good illustration of some of the different ways that God's at work in the world. So if we can play that, maybe we can turn down the lights.
Executive Director of Next Generation for Christ. And we are here in Utah at an epic location, and it has been an epic year. We've seen more than 70 people be baptized into Christ from our core team, and hundreds of people trained to share the gospel. Praise God. At Next Gen, we've got churches, church leaders, and missionaries to share the gospel using Christ-centered mission strategies: seek, serve, and share. And to share the gospel, we have the Story of Redemption film series. This Story of Redemption series has been filmed in Israel and around the world and is now available in more than 50 different languages, opening up some tremendous doors. This year, we went back to Israel, where the series began. And there, we had the opportunity to baptize into Christ a woman from one of our online Story of Redemption studies. We baptized her into Christ in the Jordan River.
Do you believe in Jesus Christ as the Son of God?
I do believe that Jesus is the Son of God.
Amen, amen. Do you want to make Jesus the Lord of your life?
Yes, I want to make Jesus the Lord of my life.
Amen, amen. We're all based on that confession that Jesus Christ is Lord. I now baptize you in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, for the forgiveness of your sins, and to receive God's Spirit to live and dwell in your life.
who is from Russia and is now spending time between Russia and Israel. We met Ilya some years ago, and he started using our film series and the wonderful camp that he runs there, and helping run our online store redemption studies in Russia as well.
So we were using this material for several years now at our camp and also with the youth classes during the year, the follow-up meetings in Samara and also working with youth in Moscow. Like you have probably heard a lot of times from James, many people say like the film because they're short. It's a good professional footage and good material. And what I value most of all are the discussion questions. Just be sincere and answer the questions together with people. And when you do that, they feel that you are just sharing your faith.
In Europe, our family team spends an extensive amount of time on the ground in Croatia, where this year, once again, our team helped staff and support a camp on the Adriatic coast in Croatia, where two teams put Christ on in baptism with huge beaming smiles. And later in the summer, we had the opportunity to run two camps in Varaj in Croatia, a children's camp and a teen camp, an adult camp, where at the end of this camp, not only did more teens make the decision to be baptized into Christ, but also there was an older woman there who actually came and was baptized and were able to study with Ukrainians there in Croatia. Joel Petty is our Eastern European rep, and he has been able to share the gospel and train others to do so in Eastern Europe. NextGen has frontline workers around the world, and we also help train both churches in the U.S. and missionaries overseas. And our online ministry helps bridge the gap between both sides of the ocean. We now, in fact, have more than 25 online store redemption groups that churches can join. And we're seeing God do some incredible things through this ministry. In Kenya alone, there have been more than 100 baptisms over the last 2 years.
My name is Gerald Juen. I work in mainly in the street, and so we are able to cover around 1,500 kids in the streets and work with organizations, but also work with street children. I know they have a lot of seekers, and it's always good when we partner also with the Next Generation Ministry, being able to outreach about 265 churches.
This year, an amazing new study has begun in Vietnam with a missionary supported by North County, Tom, using our Vietnamese Store Redemption series.
Yes, I'm from Vietnam. I have so many people come up to me and say, help me, teach me English. And so we were praying about that in our group. And then all of a sudden, Terry Manson and Lisa sent me a message saying, hey, there's a story redemption series, maybe you want to check it out. From there, it has been an answered prayer, and people just love watching it. And the questions are very thought-provoking.
And we started this online study with you, your contacts, some from your team, some from your county home churches in the U.S. How does that feel to have kind of an army of disciplers and people kind of joining in there with you to help with this effort?
Actually, it has been an incredible journey. But when I tell people, I say, hey, we have I don't know, 7 or 8 Americans who are teaching, all of you, and they're just kind of like puzzled. Really, are you actually doing that? And it's free. I never thought in my wildest dreams that we have that many people are interested in studying story redemption.
In South and Latin America, our Spanish Story Redemption series, which is now available in both subtitles and a great new voiceover, has been used in Mexico, Peru, Ecuador, and many other Spanish-speaking countries. And now, thanks to your support, we have a great new Portuguese voiceover. And there, the leaders are excited about using this series to share the gospel. I want to say thank you. Thank you for your tremendous support, which has allowed us to share the gospel all around the world. Thank you so much for your love, your friendship, and your support. God bless.
So I want to say to you, thank you. Thank you for your support, and thank you for allowing us to share the gospel around the world. It's really been amazing, all the doors that God continues to open. And one of the struggles we really have is trying to get out the information and stories, because there are actually so many. And we don't want people to overwhelm, but we want to know that God's at work in the world, all around the world. And there are people who are coming to faith in Jesus Christ. In fact, while Christianity in the U.S. is on decline globally, overall, it's actually still increasing and growing around the world. And so we know that God's at work. We know that He's alive and active, and this church is alive and active and a part of this. And you are helping support works that God is blessing in so many different ways. So again, thank you. I wanted to you can't. Some of the slides are cut off, but just run through some of our different regions and ask you to be praying for different people there. Normally, I'm showing you pictures of studies and all that kind of thing, but just here's some of the workers. So Joel Petty, y'all have met him. He's come out and helped with one of our seminars here. And he's doing a great job. He is like me now, splitting time between the U.S. and overseas, over in Eastern Europe. In fact, he's over in Eastern Europe right now. He was just in Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and earlier this year in Albania. And so he goes over and he helps encourage the church there, helps set up studies. So, for instance, a new study in Latvia just began. Another one in Lithuania is about to begin. Hopefully one in Estonia soon. So when he was in Eastern Europe earlier this year, back in February, he was in Poland, actually. And there he met one of the ministers, former minister at Mariupol, Ukraine, which has been utterly destroyed. But a wonderful minister there. Well, Joel has worked for a long time with the church in Estonia, one of the Eastern European churches he has a good relationship with. There's a older minister there named Nikolai, who runs another wonderful camp in Estonia. In fact, when our family went over in 2017 to Estonia, to Europe for those 6 countries that we went to, the first country that we went to was Estonia, and we went to a camp there with our family and met Nikolai, and he's done a wonderful work. But he's ready to kind of pass the baton on full-time to someone else. He'll continue to stay involved. Well, the preacher in Mariupol, who's been in Poland, Joel has helped kind of introduce him and connect them. He's going to be moving to Estonia and is going to help take over that work, which is fantastic, because he's been looking for a co-worker, someone, Nikolai, that he can hand the work off to and continue to stay active and involved. So Joel's doing a great job. Really blessed to have him as part of our team. He served as the director of the Bible Institute there in St. Petersburg for many years. And his wife was actually, my parents studied with her before she was baptized many years ago. And so that's been a great blessing. Before Joel was even part of our team, he was helping us with the ministry, just introducing us because he believed in what we're doing. And in fact, most all the initial people that I met in Eastern Europe were through Joel. In fact, he introduced me to Ilya, who you heard in the video. So Ilya runs these wonderful camps in Russia. And despite all that's happening, and we need to pray for peace in that part of the world, the last 2 years has actually had their largest camps in Samara, Russia, which is Ilya's hometown. He's been a part of the church in Moscow and has done a great job helping build up the church there in Samara through this camp and helping lead the Moscow church. Now, because of the situation that has happened there, he has moved to Israel for about 9 months of the year. That way his grandfather's Jewish, and he has been able to get Israel citizenship, which gives him an Israeli passport. And also, it's easier to get funds in and out of Russia, which is very, very difficult right now. Trust me, it is very difficult. In fact, lots of challenges there in Russia, and said that the church there in St. Petersburg, they actually had government agents come in, and they confiscated a bunch of literature. They were looking for anything that was pro-American or, anti-government. Of course, there's not anything there kind of like that. They're very politically neutral and just loving Christians and everything. But they're probably, trying to confiscate the building there in St. Petersburg, which is worth about $1.5 million, which is a whole lot of money anyway. But over there, that's worth even more, particularly right now. So anyway, please be praying about all that part of the world and everything. But Ilya has moved with his family, his wife who helps with his camps and everything, and a son, Timothy. They've moved to Israel about 9 months of the year, but he continues to run the camp in Russia, as well as do our online studies, and he's Russian speaking and all that. So he's a great young worker now in Israel. And actually, he and Nubar, as you saw a little bit of the footage there, are now both in Israel. And this past summer, when we were doing training there in Jerusalem, we were able to use not only Nubar, who we work with there in Israel, but also Ilya, who was there as well. And so he was able to talk about his camp experience and using the series there, etc. And that's when they put together that voiceover for those children's videos and showed them the very next week. So it's just God has really brought together people, and He's continued to bring together people. And whatever is going on in the world, we know that there's opportunities to share the gospel. And sometimes these terrible situations, while we don't pray for them, we know they create new opportunities when people are searching, when they've been displaced, when they go through terrible tragedy in their life. A lot of times they begin to ask questions and seek out God. And so that's something that's certainly happening in that part of the world. So ask for you to be thinking and praying about people over in Eastern Europe, including Joel and Ilya. So in Western, Central, Southeast Europe, Mark Hill is a minister that we work with at the Northampton Church of Christ. He is part of the British Bible School, and that's in Northampton. That's the largest church in our fellowship there in the UK. And again, just people that God sent our way. So Joel knew Mark from years ago. We had another mutual contact. But when we first started going over to the UK for next-gen purposes, actually during COVID, it was in the spring of 2021, so we were there in Croatia for like 3 months in the fall of 2020 during the midst of a worldwide pandemic. Thank you, my brave wife and family. So, and then in the spring of 2021, we were again another 3 months in Croatia, then in Serbia, and then in the UK. And so we made some connections, contacts there and everything, and then started in the fall really working together with Mark, and he's part of the British Bible School. He knows everyone there in the UK. Wonderful, great senior leader there, and he needs some support to be made up for one of his supporters who had passed away, and we saw this wonderful opportunity there in the UK. But he said, you know what, James, I would do this anyway. I mean, this is again who God has led us to. When I met Ilya, back in a train station there in Moscow, and then at a Friday's restaurant that Joel introduced us. Again, he already has this heart, and they're looking for resources, training, ways to share the gospel that are effective today. The same with Mark. And in fact, this weekend, they are showing our Iceland video on Christ's birth there in the UK. And so they are using this. He set up studies and all kinds of online trainings across the UK. And so it's wonderful work that's developed there. We've been invited to have a camp there this summer. So if you've got people here interested in going to the UK, that could be something that we could put together. Of course, you know about our work in Croatia. So Mladen is our rep there. We also work with a children's minister there, and a partnership with Croatia for Christ that broadcasts our series. So again, you know that story, but who would have ever thought that we'd have a broadcast in Croatia? Of course, when I was 9 years old, this was what I was dreaming about and planning and, working towards. I didn't even know where Croatia was on a map, it was part of Yugoslavia back then. So, but God opened this door. And then Samuel's a great young minister. He has we have a mutual friend in Croatia that connected us to him. And Albania is a primarily Muslim country. And so it's a place that obviously needs the gospel. But he has really helped the church reach out and he's translated the series into Albanian. And there in Albania, when we were actually able to go for the first time, we developed this ministry through him. He's come over and served in our camps, but we were able to go this summer for the first time because he had a child. I said, if you have a child, then you get a visit, so so hopefully we'll have more visits because I'll have more children and all that. But anyway, some great doors open up there. One new opportunity is there's a young medical doctor named Cicella that we met, and she ministers to about 500 or 600 medical students. So they have like this weekly meeting for medical students, who most of whom are not Christian, but they're in Tirana, and we'll have like a meal, and she's been having kind of her team has been like a light Bible study with them, and then help answer medical questions, which they need, so it's a way to serve them, right? Seek, serve, share. She came to one of our training seminars. She said, this is fantastic. You have this series all in Albanian and with the questions already. She's like, I have to try to come up with questions, and you already have them. So anyway, she's real excited about that. And hopefully in January, they'll be able to get that started soon. So lots of opportunities in Europe. Please be praying for them. And then you know about Kenya work here. I'll show you a slide on that here in a moment. But you heard from Joel and Jue. So how did we meet him? Well, back in 2018, we went as a family to Kenya. And during a Thanksgiving type of break, continue to try to have our family have those mission experiences. And so went there, we did some training. We filmed a couple of videos on creation and children and everything there, and made a lot of great connections. One of those was at the ministry Made in the Streets, which is a ministry that takes in street children and gives them a place to stay, and then also provides vocational training, and also they have a weekly chapel. Well, Joel and Jue is one of the leaders that we met there, and again, he's just like, yeah, this is what he is looking to do anyway. And in fact, not only at Made in the Streets, but also at the community church there in Nairobi. He's been going around to hundreds of different churches to try to help equip them. And he said, you know what? There's almost nothing for youth, for children there in these churches. It's all very adult-oriented, and it's like a time warp for them as well. It's interesting. He said, this is Kenya, and he's like, they're a digital generation, which we don't think of that, right? But it's true. And so when he found our series and we met him and everything, he started going around all across Kenya, distributing it through Flash Drive, and then in his own context there in Made in the Streets, setting up these online studies, and they're all set up in kind of like different pods, different dorms. And what we've done is, for a lot of these online studies, you'll have the teens from a particular pod or dorm join with their dorm supervisor, who are like caregivers, and then they're joined in with studies with people online from the U.S., and then they go through in their weekly chapel. And then we have another worker there, Evans, and Evans is someone that, again, another mutual friend. He actually went to AC. He's from Nairobi, but he went to ACU. And one of our other team members, Sandy Deathridge, who's our Asia rep, knew him from a time at ACU and some parallel mission things that were done together. And another church that we work with out in California that also has helped sponsor him. So anyway, he has done a great job at planning a church there in Kenya and setting up some of the studies, which again, y'all have been involved in. And so there's been some wonderful work that's developed in Kenya. One of the things that Joel has been doing has been this year is going to some other places that are kind of like the Made in the Street setting. So in Mombasa, for instance, which is on the coast of Kenya, there's both a network of churches and as well as like schools. And we found a place, places where there's a steady supply of students. That's a really good place to set up this ministry, because they're looking to learn. They're young, they're open, they're searching, and so he's done that in Mombasa. That's a great new site that's started this year. A number of new studies from that. This very weekend, he's in another place in Kenya setting that up. And so, again, we found some types of things that have been really effective settings. And now, for instance, another church we're working with, they have a work in Ghana where we're looking now to set up something similar in Ghana using this kind of model from Kenya. And then in South and Latin America, so David Silva was originally one of our interns. So all of our early interns actually were friends of Gina, my oldest daughter, who is a student at Lipscomb. She just graduated. Tell you about her. But anyway, this was one of her friends as well, David Silva. He started a campus-wide ministry there at David Lipscomb that's still going on, called Vine at 9. They come together and they have worship service, and but they do studies and devotional. And he had personally studied with and baptized a number of different students on campus. In fact, Gina won the Evangelism Award last year. Before that was David. He was the one who won the Evangelism Award. So he's originally from Colombia, a great young leader, and obviously speaks Spanish. And so he served as an intern for us, and then he's working half-time with us while going to school. And he has helped lead a number of online studies in Spanish. We just had a training in Ecuador, and he was on to help with that. So David is a really great young leader. And then we have some work in Ecuador as well as Peru. And then a new work that started developing during COVID in Brazil. So in Brazil, we started working with a church planting team in São Luís. There was a big group that was supposed to go over to Brazil during COVID, and that, of course, got canceled. So we did it online. We did online studies. We did an online camp. There were about 80 people that came out to that, and they've continued to use our series. And so now one of the things that we're doing is working with them to send short-term mission teams, and they'll use our series there in Brazil, and then they can continue the studies that they started there online. So it can work both ways. You can go to a place, make contacts, and then come back and do the studies. Or you can start with the studies online, and then you get to go and meet the people that you've been studying with. So it really works great hand in hand. But we also have a new Brazilian young woman who teaches English, and she's going to serve as one of our interns for the summer, so an international intern. So work's continuing to grow, and we have a new voiceover in Portuguese, so that's going to open up a lot of additional doors. Now, there are people that want to practice English and all that in Brazil, but I think 93% don't speak English, which is, it's a large country, in South America, not that far from us, but really most people don't speak English there. So getting into a voiceover is really helpful. But an interesting thing about Brazil is that it had the highest percentage of people that had downloaded the Chosen app on their phone, which shows both an interest in Christ, right, and Christianity, the Christian story, as well as proficiency in technology. So there's a good fit there, and a good fit for us in our ministry there as well. So Brazil's a big country, and there's a lot of opportunities there. So some ground up things that happen, and then some strategic as well. And then in Asia, so Sandy Dethridge, he is our Asia representative. How did we meet him? Well, when I was preaching down in McKinney in the Dallas area, he was in our small group. He became one of the elders there. but he was a part of a lot of story redemption studies then. This is back before we had the films and we still had the print versions. But he was a part of numerous of those studies, and he has both a shepherding heart as well as is very evangelistic. He served on the board of South Pacific Bible College, which I'll come back to in a minute. But he has done a great job. He had for many years taken a lot of teams through AIM to Papua New Guinea, really in a place without any technology, out in the bush, and also served on the board of South Pacific Bible College. But he has, we did some initial trips together over in India, but he has continued to go, and he's done training this year in Thailand, in the Philippines, in Vietnam. This online Vietnamese study started, and then he went and did seminar training in person, and then Tan, who you heard on the video, she was actually going to a seminar in Thailand, and she said, could we represent y'all there and share with them what's happening here? We're like, well, of course. So he helped equip her for that before she went over to Thailand. There's a ministry that we partner with in Thailand that is helping, that's reaching out to those in the red light district, and so they've actually shown the series right there in a restaurant that's close by, where they've invited those girls, those women into those studies, and a lot of really good there. So, and of course, talked about Israel. We have Samson, who met in actually a camp in Europe, who we work with in India, and so a lot of opportunities there. And our oldest daughter, Gina, is planning on going over to New Zealand and sometime in January. Of course, she's been writing our children's curriculum. She graduated from Lit School with degrees in theology and ministry and early childhood development. And she's been writing our children's curriculum for our series and for our camps, etc. And so there's a ministry called Mission Bible Class that actually the woman who runs that is based in New Zealand. Her husband is the board of South Pacific Bible College, which Sandy served on the board of. My father also served on the board of South Pacific Bible College. And during COVID, actually it was March of 2020 that we had planned to go to New Zealand. I was going to teach there in person and do some mission work and do some filming. COVID came, but I taught instead online, and that was our first online class actually. And so there's a connection there. Well, the dean of that college is married to the woman who runs this Mission Bible Class. It is a children's ministry that has a great online website and presence, and they also help equip other children's ministers and things like that. So anyway, Gina is planning on going over there for 2 years, at least initially going over there. It's online, so there's a lot of opportunities elsewhere. Lord willing, she'll come and serve with us in camps and things like that. So, but please be praying for her as she has been doing fundraising for that, and we're partnered with her in that ministry. So we'll be working together. But anyway, just a lot of, you can see all these different connections. It's like God has used every single relationship and connection that I've ever had, to bring together an incredible team, incredible churches and church leaders, and we are very blessed by that. And this is a picture, it may be hard to see on here, but here's one of the Kenya slides, and you can see maybe in there's Debbie and Jones in there, and Tracy and Tom and everything. So there's going to be a neat opportunity. So Lord willing, looks like it's going forward at Winterfest, which is a huge teen event. I know y'all have taken teens to them. So we've been invited to teach a class and share about our ministry there at the gathering in Gatlinburg, which is in January, and then also our Arlington, which is in January, and then Gatlinburg, which is in February. And so, Lord willing, we're going to do that. And one of the things we want to do is share about how God has used a series, including how it can be used with with teens and families doing this together. So so there's going to be some great opportunities to share, and want to include in that sharing some about Southside and being a part of this, and the ministries that y'all have helped support and also participated in. So so we'd love to get more involved with that, just in general, but again, to have more to share. So I'd love to get some parents with teens involved in that, and we're doing that in some other places as well. There's some at Fairfax and other places, but it's a great series, obviously, for seekers. It's a great series to go through with your kids or your grandkids, and so please be thinking and praying about that. But the point is that God's at work in a lot of different ways, in all kinds of ways, all around the world, and He's at work through you and through our ministry together. So thank you for your friendship, your love, and your support for our work and ministry, for our family. We're very blessed to be a part of this church and ministry here, and so thank you for your support for us, and appreciate the time and opportunity to share with you today. So again, thank you for all this, and we're looking forward to 2024, having a great year and continue to work here and around the world. So thank you very much.